Here are the 8 contestants preparing for tonight's show. These people have already appeared on the daily Weakest Link and walked away as winners. This evening they've returned to play for double the money, £20,000. But 7 of them will leave with nothing as they learn what it's like to be voted the Weakest Link.
Welcome to the Weakest Link. Any of the 8 people here tonight could win up to £20,000. They don't know each other, however. If they want the prize money, they'll have to work as a team. Last time on The Daily Show, they all left as winners. But this evening, 7 of them will leave with nothing. As round by round, we lose the player, voted the Weakest Link. Let's meet the team.
I'm Neil, 24, work for an oil company and I live in London.
I'm Chris, 46, a civil servant from Carlisle.
I'm Avril, I'm 60 and a retired nurse. I come from a village called Wesley in North Devon.
My name is Mike, I'm 31. I'm an administrator from Ilford in Essex.
I'm Gordon, 44, occupational hygienist from Newcastle.
I'm Julia, I'm 29 and I'm a recruitment administrator from Reading.
I'm Ian, I'm 43. I'm a management consultant for South Woodford in London.
My name is Kate. I'm a 37-year-old communications manager and I live in Northampton.
Now, the rules. In each round, the aim is to answer enough questions correctly to reach your £2,500 target within the time limit. The fastest way to reach your target is to create a chain of 8 correct answers. Get your question wrong and you break the chain and lose all the money in that chain. But if you say bank before the question is asked, the money is safe. However, you start a new chain from scratch. We'll begin with the person whose name is first alphabetically. That's you, Avril. Let's play the Weakest Link. The first question is for £50. Start the clock. Avril, in the Disney film of the same name, what sort of animal was Dumbo?
An elephant.
Correct. Mike, in the US, what colour ribbons are traditionally tied to trees to welcome someone back from war?
Yellow.
Correct. Gordon, in nature, is a tortoise a reptile or a mammal?
Reptile.
Correct. Julia, the guardian spirits and histories of Native American tribes are traditionally carved into which tall poles?
A totem pole.
Correct. Ian, in literature, who wrote the novel Travels with My Aunt?
Pass.
Graham Greene. Kate, the word cornucopia is another term for the horn of what?
Pass.
Plenty. Neil, which film provided John Travolta with 4 UK top 20 hit singles in 1978?
Night Fever.
Grease. Chris, in nature, what do bees and wasps use to defend themselves?
Sting.
Correct. Avril, which Swedish actress created a fashion for slouch hats and trench coats in the 1930s?
Greta Garbo.
Correct. Mike, in history, which British Prime Minister flew to Munich to meet Adolf Hitler in 1938?
Neville Chamberlain.
Correct. Gordon, what French name is given to social activities enjoyed after winter sports?
Après-ski.
Correct. Julia,
Bank.
in music, what H is another word for a mouth organ?
A harmonica.
Correct. Ian, noted for her collection of shoes, what was the first name of the wife of the late President Marcos of the Philippines?
Imelda.
Correct. Kate, which pea is an animal that obtains its food by hunting and killing other animals?
Predator.
Correct.
Bank.
Neil, in which northern English city is the Royal Armouries Museum?
Newcastle.
Leeds. Chris, Phoenix is the capital of which US state?
Arizona.
Correct. Avril, which English horror writer's first novel, The Rat, was published in 1974?
Pass.
James Herbert. Mike, the Place de la Concorde is located in the centre of which European city?
Paris.
Correct. Gordon, in transport, pelican and zebra are both types of what?
Pedestrian crossings.
Correct. Julia.
Bank.
Which queen, the wife of King William IV, gave her name to a major city of South Australia?
Adelaide.
Correct. Ian, in cookery, what M is a small biscuit or cake made of ground almonds, egg white and sugar?
Macaroon.
Correct. Kate, in pop music, Sailor and This Is My Song were hits in the 60s for Petula who?
Clark.
Correct.
Bank.
Neil, which large statue near Giza in Egypt has a human head and lion's body?
Sphinx.
Correct. Chris, in nature, which flower has varieties called tiger and leopard?
Lily.
Correct. Avril,
Bank.
in medicine, are antibiotics normally used to treat viral or bacterial infections?
Bacteria.
Time is up, and in that round you banked £1,100 out of a possible £2,500. The question is, who can't cope with the pressure? Who can't you wait to get rid of? One of you is about to leave with nothing. It's time to vote off the weakest link.
Having answered all her questions correctly and banked the most money for the team, Julia is the strongest link statistically. Neil is the weakest link as he got the most questions wrong. However, he did bank £400 for the team. Will this save him when it comes to the voting?
Voting over, it's time to reveal who you think is the weakest link.
Ian.
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 Neil.
Neil.
Ian.
Kate.
Neil.
Julia, how is it for you so far?
Pretty good, I think.
Right. What did Ian do to upset you?
He got the first question wrong. We could actually have had quite a lot of money in that first round had he got it right.
Neil,
Yep.
thought Ian was the worst player, did you?
I did, yeah. Didn't bank at the right time, unfortunately.
Would it surprise you, well it probably will, to know you were the worst player in the last round?
It doesn't surprise me. I had a bit of a shocker.
OK. So Ian, with 4 votes, the team have decided you are the weakest link. Goodbye.
It's awful to be the first one to be voted off, especially as I wasn't the weakest link, and I think I was ganged up on by a small clique that are currently playing still. The Walk of Shame is terrible. I never want to do it again. I don't want to be anywhere near it again. It's awful.
Round 2, team. So far you've won £1,100 out of a possible £2,500. There are 7 of you left. We are now taking 10 seconds off the clock. We'll start with the strongest link from the last round. That's Julia. Let's play the weakest link. Start the clock. Julia, autofocus, SLR and pinhole are all terms used to describe types of what?
Camera.
Correct. Kate, in the American TV series Friends, what is the name of the coffee shop?
Central Perk.
Correct. Neil, what R is a vote by the electorate on an issue of public importance?
Referendum.
Correct. Chris, in history, which American outlaw born in 1866 was the best-known member of the Wild Bunch gang?
Billy the Kid.
Butch Cassidy. Avril, name either of the 2 London parks adjacent to Buckingham Palace.
St James's Park.
Correct. Mike, in maths, which has the greater volume, 2 pints or 1 litre?
1 litre.
2 pints. Gordon, in the animal kingdom, what M is the North American term for an elk?
Moose.
Correct. Julia, in pop music, according to Lonnie Donegan's 1960 hit, what was his old man's occupation?
A dustman.
Correct. Kate.
Bank.
Which British monarch, while Prince of Wales, married the widow, Mrs. Maria Fitzherbert?
Henry III.
George IV. Neil, at which cricket test match ground is there a Warwick Road end, Old Trafford or Trent Bridge?
Trent Bridge.
Old Trafford. Chris, Goldeneye was the Jamaican home of which British novelist?
Pass.
Ian Fleming. Avril, which US state is nicknamed the Empire State?
New York.
Correct. Mike, in which pantomime does the prince have a valet called Dandini?
Aladdin.
Cinderella. Gordon, in the animal kingdom, frogs, toads and newts belong to which class of vertebrates?
Amphibians.
Correct. Julia, which film starring Julia Roberts is about a mother fighting for justice over a poisoned water supply?
Erin Brockovich.
Correct. Kate,
Bank.
which type of engine used in cars and heavy vehicles is named after its inventor?
Turbo engine.
Diesel. Neil, in music, does the term cross-fingering refer to brass or woodwind instruments?
Brass.
Woodwind. Chris, in which county is the motor racing circuit Silverstone?
Northamptonshire.
Correct. Avril, which vegetable is brought by the bulb and used by the clove?
Onion.
Garlic. Mike, in the radio series The Archers, Sid Perks is the landlord of which pub?
The Woolpack.
The Bull. Gordon, in which year did astronauts last land on the moon, 1972 or 1980?
72.
Correct. Julia.
Bank.
In literature, Shattered, centering on the equestrian world, is the latest novel by which author? Time's up. The correct answer was Dick Francis. And in that round, team, you won a very disappointing £250. You could, of course, have won another £2,500. The question is, which member of the team is now looking decidedly dodgy? Who is beginning to bring you down? It's time to vote off the weakest link.
For the second round in a row, Julia is the strongest link statistically. Mike is the weakest link, as he failed to answer a single question correctly. But will the votes follow the facts?
Voting over, it's time to reveal who you think is the weakest link.
Chris.
Neil.
Chris.
Neil.
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 Chris.
Julia, why Neil?
He did show a very poor performance in that round. I don't think he got any of his questions right, or maybe one.
You got one right. Chris, don't like him?
No, it's nothing to do with that. I would have voted for myself because I was absolutely atrocious, to be honest.
Okay.
But I thought he got a couple wrong.
You weren't the weakest link, of course.
I felt like it.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it may be your turn soon. Neil, with 4 votes, you are the weakest link. Goodbye.
I voted for Chris in the second round because he was equally dismal as me, and really not much between it, but he's got about 2 rounds to go, if that. Not a long shelf life as Chris, though, I think.
Round 3, you could have won £5,000 by now. In fact, in the kitty you have just £1,350. You are down to 6 players. We are taking another 10 seconds off the clock. We'll start with the strongest link from the last round. That's Julia. Let's play the weakest link. Start the clock. Julia, Cortes is the name of the parliament of 2 European countries. Name one.
Spain.
Correct. Kate. Which prominent figure of the Cuban Revolution, whose first name was Ernesto, died in Bolivia in 1967?
Castro.
Che Guevara. Chris, what A is the medical term for a graze or a minor skin wound?
Abrasion.
Correct. Avril. In which Indian city would you see an arch called the Gateway of India?
Amritsar.
Bombay. Mike, in literature, who are the small creatures created by Mary Norton who recycle items lost by humans?
The borrowers.
Correct. Gordon, what name is given to the left-hand side of a ship or aeroplane?
Port.
Correct. Julia, in the 1941 film The Maltese Falcon, who played Detective Sam Spade?
Humphrey Bogart.
Correct. Kate.
Bank.
In ancient history, what ale was a leaf often used to make wreaths for successful athletes or artists?
Laurel.
Correct. Chris, according to the saying, people who live in glass houses shouldn't do what?
Throw stones.
Correct. Avril.
Bank.
In temperature, what is the equivalent of 50 degrees Fahrenheit in degrees Celsius, 10 or 20 degrees?
10 degrees.
Correct. Mike, which veteran entertainer uses the catchphrase, I want to tell you a story?
Max Bygraves.
Correct. Gordon, which Home Alone star is in the West End production Madame Melville playing a boy who has an affair with his French teacher?
Macaulay Culkin.
Correct. Julia, in science, what P is used to measure distance walked?
Pedometer.
Correct. Kate.
Bank.
In pop music, who became the youngest female for more than 30 years to get to #1 with her song Because We Want To?
Billy.
Correct. Chris, what nationality was a football player who scored the last ever international goal at the old Wembley Stadium before its closure this year?
German.
Correct. Avril.
Bank.
Which former UK Labour Party leader was appointed Vice President of the European Union in 1999?
Neil Kinnock.
Correct. Mike, in the human body, where would you find the cerebellum?
In your head.
In the brain.
Bank.
I'll accept head. Gordon, in clothing, which pouch of fur or leather is traditionally worn in front of a Highlander's kilt?
Sporran.
Correct. Julia.
Bank.
In children's literature, which naughty rabbit's father ended up in Mr. McGregor's pie?
Peter Rabbit.
Kate.
Bank.
Time is up, and in that round, you managed to bank £1,100 of the £2,500 you could have won. But remember, speed matters more and more each time. I advise you to dispatch any dimwits. Ditherers are better off sitting outside with a cup of tea. One of you is about to leave with nothing. It's time to vote off the weakest link.
For the third successive round, Julia is the strongest link as she answered the most questions correctly. Although Avril and Kate had a close round statistically, Avril is the weakest link. But how will the votes go?
Voting over, it's time to reveal who you think is the weakest link.
Kate.
Chris.
Chris.
Mike.
Kate.
Avril.
Team, we have a tie. Chris and Kate, 2 votes each. Chris. Why Kate?
We had a very good round that time, but I think she got one wrong.
Avril. Why Chris?
I thought he was quite weak in this round, but he was weaker the round before.
Right. Well, how weak do you want him to be? You got 3 questions right. How do you think you did in that round?
Not too well.
No. Did very badly, actually, Avril.
Did I?
Statistically, you were the weakest link.
Oh dear.
But when the vote is tied, the strongest link has the deciding vote. Julia, who would you like to get rid of? Kate or Chris? And you can change your mind if you wish.
It's an extremely tough decision. I think I will have to change my mind and go with Chris.
Why?
Because I think, looking at it over all the rounds, I believe Kate's banked more money than Chris has.
Chris, Julia has decided she wants you out. You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
It's an interesting experience actually coming off for a change. I wasn't the weakest link, I knew that, although I did have an atrocious round last time. I was a little surprised Julia changed her mind, but hey, it's one of those things.
Round 4 so far, you have £2,400 in your kitty out of possible prize money of £7,500. There are 5 of you left. We are taking another 10 seconds off the clock. You now have only 2 minutes. We'll start with the strongest link from the last round. That's Julia. Let's play the weakest link. Start the clock. Julia, in which African country was Queen Elizabeth II when she heard the news of her father's death and her consequent accession to the throne?
Nigeria?
Kenya. Kate, in the animal kingdom, what name is given to a female peacock?
Peahen.
Correct. Avril, what N is a spirit in Greek mythology?
Pass.
Nymph. Mike, in which seaside resort west of Colwyn Bay would you visit the Great Orme's Head?
Pass.
Llandudno. Gordon, in literature, which Paul Theroux novel set in the South American jungle is also a film starring Harrison Ford?
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
The Mosquito Coast. Julia, in tennis, whom did Bjorn Borg beat in the final to become Wimbledon champion in 1977 and 1978? Jimmy Connors or John McEnroe?
Jimmy Connors.
Correct. Kate, which Caribbean country was ruled in turn by Papa Doc and Baby Doc Duvalier?
Cuba.
Haiti. Avril, what K is a hobby involving rib, pearl and cable?
Knitting.
Correct. Mike, in classical music, how many strings does a violin have?
4.
Correct. Gordon, the name of which device is an acronym of light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation?
Laser.
Correct. Julia,
Bank.
in history, during which century did King Edward the Confessor rule England?
The 11th century.
Correct. Kate, in the Bible, what is the full name given to the chest containing the tablets bearing the 10 Commandments?
Holy Sacrament.
Ark of the Covenant. Avril, in the US, is the Gateway Arch in St. Louis, Missouri or Memphis, Tennessee?
St. Louis, Missouri.
Correct. Mike,
Bank.
which fruit has varieties known as plum and beefsteak?
Tomato.
Correct. Gordon, in geography, St. Stephen's Cathedral and Mozart's house are features of which European city?
Salzburg.
Vienna. Julia,
Bank.
Fingal, O'Flaherty and Wills were the middle names of which Irish writer and wit?
No.
Oscar Wilde. Kate. Time's up. And that was pretty disastrous. You managed to bank, team, only £250. Who is now seriously holding you back? It's time to vote off the weakest link.
Statistically, Mike is the strongest link. For the first time in the game, Kate is the weakest link, as she got 2 questions wrong and lost the most money for the team. But will the other players have noticed?
Voting over, it's time to reveal who you think is the weakest link.
Gordon.
Kate.
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 Gordon.
Julia, what happened to you?
I don't know. I just lost it.
You lost it, did you?
I did lose it.
Will you be finding it, Julia?
I hope so, yes. I did manage to bank some money that round, though, so it wasn't a total disaster.
And you're finally going to get rid of Kate,
I'm
you think?
afraid so. It looks that way.
You haven't liked her for some time now, have you?
It's nothing personal, honestly.
Why are you getting rid of her then?
It's getting much more difficult to decide who is the weakest link now, and I think she did perform badly in that round.
Well, Kate, statistically, you were the weakest link, and with 3 votes, the team have decided you are the weakest link. Goodbye.
It was a real shock having to do the walk of shame. You just don't know where to look, what to do, whether to pull a funny face, make some reaction, whether to just slope off with your tail between your legs. I hope that Gordon will win because he's quite a quiet chap and just sort of kept himself to himself, and I think he has probably got the widest general knowledge and he deserves to win.
Round 5, your total so far is £2,700, but if you'd hit your targets, it would be £10,000. 4 of you left, another 10 seconds coming off the time. We start with the strongest link from the last round, that's Mike. Let's play the weakest link. Start the clock. Mike, what does the British organisation, the RSPB, protect?
Birds.
Correct. Gordon, which member of the royal family is married to Sir Angus Ogilvy?
Princess Margaret.
Princess Alexandra. Julia, in TV, which showcase for scientific invention that started in the 1960s was presented by Raymond Baxter?
Tomorrow's World.
Correct. Avril, in biology, anaerobic exercise produces which acid in muscles?
I don't know.
Lactic. Mike, which 1939 film starred John Wayne as the Ringo Kid?
Pass.
Stagecoach. Gordon, in sport, which horse race is run over the longer distance, the Champion Hurdle or the Cheltenham Gold Cup?
Gold Cup.
Correct. Julia, which 1920s dance took its name from a town in South Carolina?
Charleston.
Correct. Avril.
Frank.
In literature, which fictional heroine created by Richard Blackmore was shot at the altar as she was marrying John Ridd?
Lorna Doone.
Correct. Mike. Was Jimmy Carter or Ronald Reagan US president at the time of the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in December 1979?
Carter.
Correct. Gordon. What hath God wrought was the first message sent by which inventor of the telegraphic code?
Marconi.
Samuel Morse. Julia. The 1940 film The Philadelphia Story was remade as which musical in 1956?
No, no, no.
High Society. Avril. In history, which British king died after falling off his horse in 1702?
Pass.
William III. Mike. Which instrument used in weather forecasting was invented by Torricelli in 1643?
Weather balloon.
The barometer. Gordon. In pop music, which Queen song topped the UK singles charts at Christmas in 1975 and again in 1991?
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Correct. Julia. Children's author Catherine Hale. Time is up. I cannot complete the question. And in that round, you banked a very, very, very unimpressive £150. Who clearly is not worth their place, whose time is up. One of you is about to leave with nothing. It's time to vote off the weakest link.
For the 4th time in the game, Julia is the strongest link statistically. Avril is the weakest link as she answered the fewest questions correctly, although she did bank the most money for the team in this round. Will that be enough to save her?
Voting over, it's time to reveal who you think is the weakest link.
Gordon.
Gordon.
Avril.
Avril.
We have a tie, Avril and Gordon. 2 votes each. Mike, what happened?
I think we all had very similar rounds.
No,
to be
I'm
honest.
asking about you.
Oh, okay. I didn't know who invented the barometer.
Why Gordon?
As I said, it was a very close round between, I think, all 4 of us. He voted for me once. That's it.
Revenge.
Simple as that.
Okay. Gordon, how did you do in that last round, do you think?
Half and half. 2 wrong, 2 right.
Quite badly then, really.
Yeah.
Why Avril, Gordon?
Again, it was an even round, difficult to tell. Bit of revenge as well. She voted for me in the last round.
OK. Julia, you were the strongest link in that last round. So you have to decide whether you want to get rid of Avril or Gordon.
I think it will have to be Avril.
Why?
Extremely hesitant and a lot of wrong answers.
Right. Avril, Julia wants to get rid of you. You are the weakest link. Goodbye.
I think the team might vote off Gordon next. He has been very strong, but he was weaker in those. But it's quite difficult to choose now. When you get to the last 3 and they're all good, it's very hard to choose. Both the questions I got wrong towards the end of the quiz. I should have known. The one about lactic acid because I'm a nurse, the one about William III because I'm studying history. I should have known them.
Round 6, and out of a possible £12,500, you've actually managed to put in the bank just £2,850. So we are hardly fainting with admiration. 3 of you left, another 10 seconds off the clock. We start with the strongest link from the last round, that's Julia. Let's play the weakest link. Start the clock. Julia, in geography, what is the chief seaport and 2nd largest city in Egypt?
Cairo.
Alexandria. Mike, in 1666, which king was involved in organising the firefighters trying to control the Great Fire of London, Charles I or Charles II?
Charles II.
Correct. Gordon, what name is given to the study of family trees?
Pass.
Genealogy. Julia, in history, which Eastern European country did King Zog rule until forced into exile in 1939?
Czechoslovakia.
Albania. Mike, which TV programme connects the characters Emma Peel and Tara King?
The Avengers.
Correct. Gordon, in music, what does the instruction adagio mean?
Quickly.
Slow. Julia, which American actor and father of actress Zoe was the driving force behind the rebuilding of Shakespeare's Globe Theatre?
Sam Wanamaker.
Correct. Mike, in what sport did the Rumble in the Jungle and the Thriller in Manila take place?
Boxing.
Correct. Gordon, in literature, who wrote the novel Silas Marner?
Dickens.
George Eliot. Julia, what colour hair can be described as Titian?
Red.
Correct. Mike,
Blank.
in the Jewish religion, does the bride or the groom break a glass by stepping on it during the marriage ceremony?
Bride.
The groom. Gordon, traditionally, which gambling game begins with the call eyes down?
Bingo.
Correct. Julia, in history, which Spanish city was absorbed into the kingdoms of Aragon in 1137?
Oh, God. Barcelona.
Correct. Mike.
Bank.
In 1996, singer Tom Jones appeared as himself in which Tim Burton sci-fi comedy film?
Mars Attacks.
Correct. Gordon, in which religion are the 5 Ks an integral feature?
Shintoism.
Sikhism. Julia, an ophthalmoscope is used to... Time is up. I cannot complete the question, and having got rid of so many weak links, you managed to bank just £150 in that round. Now, in round 7, you get the chance to double what you bank, and that means in the next round there is £5,000 to be won. The question is, who is least likely to help you raise your bank balance? In other words, who is the worst player? Who do you need to get rid of? It's time to vote off the weakest link.
With the most correct answers, Mike is the strongest link. He was also the only member of the team to bank any money. Gordon is statistically the weakest link, as he only answered 1 question correctly. But at this crucial stage of the game, who will the team vote off?
Voting over, it's time to reveal who you think is the weakest link.
Gordon.
Mike.
Gordon.
Mike, why Gordon?
I thought he was the worst in the last round.
Did you think you were the best in the last round?
I don't know.
Julia, why Gordon?
He did perform very badly in that last round, yes. I don't think he got a single question right.
Well, he did, actually.
Oh, OK, well, just the one, then.
Just the one. 4 questions wrong, Gordon. There was really no end to your ignorance in that last round.
Knew everybody else's questions, but not my own.
And the statistics show, quite naturally, you were the worst player with 2 votes. Gordon, you are the weakest link. Goodbye.
The question I probably should have got right was genealogies. If I'd had time to think about it, I probably would have managed to dredge it out of the memory. But time was there, gone, couldn't do anything about it. I think Julia will win. She has been a little nervous over the last 2 rounds, but if she keeps her cool, I think she will do it. I hope she does.
Round 7. You've won £3,000. You could by now, in fact, have won £15,000. Julia and Mike, just the 2 of you left, and you have only 90 seconds in this round. But whatever you win will be doubled and added to your total to make up your final prize money. So £5,000 is at stake in this round. We'll start with the strongest link from the last round. That's Mike. Let's play the weakest link. Start the clock. Mike, which British fashion designer was famous for her T-shirts printed with environmental and anti-nuclear slogans?
Vivienne Westwood.
Catherine Hammett. Julia, in literature, who wrote the recent best-selling novel The House on Hope Street?
No, don't know.
Daniel Steele. Mike, by what name is the square mile in London better known?
The City.
Correct. Julia, in history, which European country had colonies at Macau in China and Goa in India?
Portugal.
Correct. Mike, what is 20% of £250?
Pass.
£50. Julia, in which US state are the cities of Cleveland and Toledo?
Ohio.
Correct. Mike, a picador is a participant in which sport?
Bullfighting.
Correct. Julia, a drawing by which 16th century artist was found at Castle Howard in Yorkshire this year?
Picasso.
Michelangelo. Mike, in which country was the actress Zsa Zsa Gabor born?
Czechoslovakia.
Hungary. Julia, which Asian city is served by Chetlapkok Airport, opened in 1998?
Thailand.
Hong Kong. Mike, in nature, what air is a large shellfish that is a major source of mother of pearl?
Anemone.
Abalone. Julia, in Spain, during the Valencian Tomatina festival, people pelt each other with what?
Tomatoes.
Correct. Mike,
Bank.
in which musical do Annie Oakley and Frank Butler sing Anything You Can Do, I Can Do Better?
Annie, Get Your Gun.
Correct. Julia,
Bank.
in history, Norway was ruled by which Scandinavian country until 1814?
Denmark.
Correct.
Bank.
Mike. OK, time up, and you didn't make it to £2,500. In that round, you banked just £250. Never mind, we'll double that and add it to the winnings from the previous rounds. That means total prize money tonight of £3,500. But of course, only one of you can take that money away. So now you will be playing against each other head to head. I'll ask alternate questions. It's the best of 5. Whoever answers the most questions correctly wins. It's as simple as that. If there's a tie after 5 questions each, we'll go for sudden death until we have a winner. So, Julia and Mike with £3,500. Let's play the weakest link. Julia, as the strongest link in the last round, you have the choice of who goes first.
I'll go first.
Julia, which US president is traditionally supposed to have written his famous Gettysburg Address on the back of an envelope?
George Washington.
The correct answer is Abraham Lincoln. Mike, in written French, acute, grave, and circumflex are all types of what?
Accents.
That's the correct answer. Julia, in literature, which character created by Muriel Spark aimed to make her girls the creme de la creme?
Miss Jean Brodie.
That is the correct answer. Mike, what was the name of the spacecraft in which Yuri Gagarin became the first man in space?
Sputnik.
The correct answer is Vostok 1. Julia, which animal has a male called a boar, a female called a sow, young called a cub, and the group name a sleuth?
Bears.
That is the correct answer. Mike, Which British pop star sports tattoos including Elvis, Grant Me Serenity and Born to Be Mild?
Robbie Williams.
That is the correct answer. Julia. How many monarchs reigned in Britain between Queen Victoria and Queen Elizabeth II?
3.
The correct answer is 4. Mike, if you answer this question correctly, you will take the lead. Which singer starred in the first talkie film?
Al Jolson.
That is the correct answer. Julia, you need to answer this question correctly, or else Mike takes home £3,500. On which British island does the House of Keys help to pass laws?
The Isle of Man.
That is the correct answer. Mike, answer this question correctly and you take home the money. In opera, which of the 3 tenors is the eldest? Carreras, Domingo or Pavarotti?
Carreras.
The correct answer is Pavarotti. After 5 questions each, we have a tie. So we now go into a sudden death situation. The questions will continue in pairs. Julia, if you get your question correct, then Mike will have to answer his correctly or he'll lose. And Julia, if you get your question wrong, then Mike will have to answer his question correctly to win. So, Julia and Mike, let's play Sudden Death. Julia, the name of which American city, famous for its atomic research laboratory, means the cottonwoods in Spanish?
I don't know.
The correct answer is Los Alamos. Oh. Mike, in history, which Nazi leader commanded the Luftwaffe during the Battle of Britain?
Goebbels.
The correct answer is Goering. Julia, you're back in the game. In myth, fairy folk, known as knockers and piskies, are particularly associated with which English county?
Devon.
The correct answer is Cornwall.
Oh.
Mike, if you answer this question correctly, you have won the game. So, £3,500. Which children's TV show made in France in the 1960s was narrated in English by Eric Thompson?
The Magic Roundabout.
That is the correct answer. That means, Mike, you are tonight's strongest link and you go away with £3,500. Julia, you leave with nothing. Join us again for the weakest link. Goodbye.
I feel awful to have lost £3,500. It's doubly distressing for me since I was the strongest link, I believe, for most of that game.
I just can't believe I won it. Obviously, I'm delighted, but after round 2, I had the worst round possible. I feel I snuck in through the back door a little bit.